Okay, hello guys, good afternoon everybody. It's your boy Mike. So I'm going to be talking about a supercharger which is mounted on a 2005 Range Rover Sports. Now this supercharger has been in this Range Rover Sports and some Jaguar. Now this supercharger has been on this vehicle for some quite a while, I think for up to 6 years. Now this supercharger was discontinued by Jaguar Land Rover in 2000 and late 2010 when they introduced the latest model AJ133 V8, which was 5.0 liter. Now this is a 4.2 liter supercharged. Now how does supercharger work? Now a supercharger uh, is a device used to achieve air induction. Now we all know that once you have more air, more fuel, then we have more power in your internal combustion engine. And then supercharger achieves this thing. How does it achieve this thing? Now it achieves this thing because it is being mounted in the car. This is a belt driven supercharger, which is a belt is mounted on the pulley that drives the roller of the supercharger, which turns this twin screw. This is a twin screw supercharger. Now a twin screw supercharger means two screws that are wrapped together. As you can see, you will find out that these screws are wrapped together. Now, oh God, this is the roller. Once I turn this thing, you will find out that this twin screw is rolling. Now the belt is being mounted here that turns this thing. Now the belt is being mounted. Now when the engine turns, it turns this thing. Now I'm going to be talking about some few things about this supercharger. Now there are pros and cons of supercharger. Now the disadvantage of supercharger is about the parasitic draw it draws on the engine. That's number one. Then some car manufacturers are no longer using supercharger. Reason in the sense that the parasitic draw that the supercharger draws from the engine, I think, is quite much more when you talk about turbocharger. Now turbocharger, the disadvantage of a turbocharger is because of turbo lag. Turbo lag. And though turbo lag has been achieved by variable valve timing, and some car manufacturers do have an electric supercharger mounted on their engine. So when you put your leg on the pedal, that's metal to metal to the pedal, or when you put your leg on the gas, immediately you have this force. So there is no turbo lag. You feel this. You are in control of the vehicle. You feel this power. You feel this force. Now, talking about this supercharger, now we can see that there is an you can see an intake intake throttle body. This is the throttle body. Now this is an electric throttle body which is mounted on the supercharger. Now this is a 4.2 liter supercharger. air 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 is being drawn from here. This opens. Now this air comes into here, and then from here it is directed into the engine manifold. Now another disadvantage of supercharger is that supercharger tends to heat the engine. So the air that comes into this supercharger passes through a supercharger air cooler. There is an air cooler that cools down the air, and actually it equally has an intake air temperature sensor which monitors the temperature of the air that is going into the intake manifold. When it finds out that the air is hot, it can trigger a limp home mode. Now the air has now we all know that air has density. So understand? So the mass of air generated by this, it pumps it directly into the engine. So when your engine now has enough power, this is how it achieve it. When this thing turns this twin screw over here, when it turns it with the power, that power of a mighty V8 engine, when it turns it, it pumps in air. Air comes in through here. This compresses the air. We call this air compressor. Some car manufacturer calls it air compressor. Some call it air blower. Some call it supercharger. This air enters into here. As you can see this thing. Air enters into here. here compresses the air. Once it compresses the air, what happens? The air comes out through here. You can see here. The air comes out through here, down to the intercooler. Once it enters the intercooler has an internal radiator. Water tends to enter there to cool the intercooler, and then the air is now directed to the intake manifold when it's being used by the engine to burn when it's being used by the engine to burn the fuel that is directed. Now, another thing I want you to know about this supercharger is that now this has an a manual wastegate actuator, not an electric wastegate actuator. Now this manual wastegate actuator now helps when there is an overboost on the supercharger. Now let me show you. When there is an overboost in the supercharger, where there is too much air and there are much air which is being compressed. Now there is an ECU which monitors how much air enters the supercharger, how much air the supercharger draws, the temperature of the air density, the mass of the air. I don't have time to talk about all those things. The day I'm going to talk about air fuel ratio, I'm going to do it on a whiteboard so that I can give you some calculations that car manufacturers uses to do some tune their cars. High performance cars has their own tuning. Other cars, several cars has their own tuning based on different manufacturer. This is a wastegate. This is a manual wastegate actuator. Now what this wastegate does is that if the boost on this supercharger is too much, is enormous, this wastegate actuator, which is controlled, this is a vacuum wastegate actuator, it opens slightly, letting much air out from the system, thereby maintaining the desired air pressure for this thing, so that this does not blow the engine. This does not blow the engine. Then for those people that are into tuning vehicles and into car modification, if you want a desired horsepower, there are some certain things that people does here. Now, number one is that they tends to change the okay, let me show you something. Now, as you can see now, the roller mounted on the supercharger, now they will have to make this diameter much more thinner. Once the diameter is much more thinner, then this thing tends to roll faster. Once it rolls faster, that means much air comes directly. Now this is not now this is done at owner's risk. After doing all those things, after mounting the desired roller here, you go to a dyno tune. That is what we call dyno tune. They tune your vehicle to match some parameters. I don't know how they does it. I've not reached to that extent. And then another thing I want to show you about the supercharger. Now this thing. Now in Jaguar Land Rover, this is where the evap is being mounted. Is for emission control. This is for emission control. Then here there's what we call PCV, positive crankcase vent. This is where the intake breathes. Positive crankcase vent, where the intake breathes. So when you find out that the intake is leaking in the manifold, that means the air coming out from here, where the IC engine breathes, there is a leak between the top cover. That is where the PCV is found. Or if you find out that your supercharger is burning too much oil, PCV, positive crankcase vent. Now here is where is this? Here is where the boost sensor is located. Now this measures the boost pressure of the intake air coming out from the supercharger. Now over here you can see this. This is a water inlet and this is a water outlet. Water inlet, water outlet. Now here is for the throttle body to be cooled by water. Down this, there is a pipe that mounts here, they go directly to the radiator, and then it is bolted on the engine. It is being bolted on the engine. So this is the what I want to show you about Land Rover Supercharger. Now maybe in my next class I have to dismantle the Supercharger to show you more on how it works. Thank you and God bless you.